Emily stood in the hallway of our home, the same place where I'd kissed her for the first time after moving in, where we used to laugh while folding laundry or argue over weekend plans. Today, her face was unreadable, cold, polished. She looked stunning, if I'm being honest. Red dress that hugged her curves, subtle makeup, that faint floral perfume I used to bury my face into. But what she said next carved the floor out from under me. "I'm meeting Jason," she said flatly, adjusting the strap of her purse. "You're not going to stop me." I blinked at her, trying to process what the hell I was hearing. "And if you try," she continued, lifting her chin, "I'll call the police and tell them you threatened me. Don't forget, I can cry on cue." That one hit like a punch. Not the threat itself. That was just venom, but the sheer calculation behind it. She had rehearsed this, planned it. There was no shame in her eyes, no guilt, just determination and a little bit of cruelty. My throat was dry. "Why?" was all I could manage. She smirked. "Because I want more. Jason gives me that. And you've been coasting." I wanted to say something. I wanted to scream, beg, lash out, do anything except just stand there like a man waiting for the axe to fall. But my body didn't listen. My heart was racing, chest tight, hands shaking, yet I couldn't move. She turned toward the door, heels clicking against the hardwood. That sound would haunt me later. Then my phone rang. The display showed First National Bank. Weird. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick it up. "Hello, Mr. Palmer? This is Lindsay from First National. We're calling to confirm an unusual series of transactions on your wife's account." I blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" The woman continued, professional but uneasy. "Earlier this morning, your joint and her personal savings accounts were accessed from an out-of-state IP address. All funds were transferred to an external account under the name Jason Myers. Are you familiar with this person?" My mouth went dry. "He emptied her accounts?" "Yes, sir. Over $140,000. We attempted to reach her, but—" Click. The call ended because Emily had turned back around and snatched the phone out of my hand. "What did you just say?" she hissed. The blood drained from her face so quickly I thought she might faint. "Jason took the money?" I didn't say anything. I didn't have to. Her eyes darted as if trying to read the truth off the walls. Her lips parted, and she staggered back, suddenly breathless. She scrambled for her phone, tapped rapidly, waited, nothing. Her screen stayed dark, silent. She dialed again, this time on speaker. "You've reached a number that has been disconnected or is no longer in service." Her phone slipped from her hand and clattered to the floor. That elegant, confident woman who just moments ago threatened me with false charges now looked like a crumpled paper doll. She dropped to her knees, staring at her phone as if it might suddenly bring him back. "Oh my God," she whispered over and over. No. I should have felt pity, maybe even an urge to comfort her. But all I felt was numb. She looked up at me, mascara already streaking down her cheeks. "Please," she begged. He took everything. He said he loved me. I didn't move. The irony was poetic. She'd picked Jason over me, risked our life, our marriage for whatever thrill he gave her. And now, standing in the ruins she'd created, she wanted me to rescue her? My silence was louder than any scream. I watched her shatter in real time, every breath a gasp, every sob a reminder of how fragile betrayal really is once the fantasy collapses. It was all crashing down around her, and this was only the beginning. I stood there, watching the love of my life drown in her own choices. Emily was still on the floor, now curled into herself, phone beside her like a useless relic of a dream she'd been stupid enough to believe in. Her sobs echoed through the hallway, the same space where we used to steal kisses on rushed mornings, where she once whispered, "I love you," after our first real fight. Now, she was just a stranger crying over a different man. Jason. The name tasted sour in my mouth. A man I'd never met, but knew intimately now. He'd fucked my wife, drained her bank accounts, and disappeared like smoke. And all I could think was how poetic it was. The man she thought would rescue her from a boring life turned out to be the one who destroyed hers in a single swipe. "Tyler," she whimpered. "Please say something." I walked past her without a word. My legs moved on instinct, taking me to the kitchen, where I poured myself a drink. Bourbon neat. The good kind. I watched the amber swirl in the glass, steadying my breath. Behind me, I heard the sound of Emily picking herself off the floor. She entered the kitchen like a ghost. Her eyeliner was smudged, hair tangled, that pristine red dress now wrinkled and ridiculous. Her mouth trembled as she tried to speak. I didn't know. I thought, he told me. God, I'm so stupid. I sipped my drink slowly. Yeah, I said, finally meeting her eyes. You are. She flinched like I'd slapped her. Tyler, I didn't mean for this to happen. Things between us were cold. I felt invisible. That old excuse. That tired fucking narrative. You didn't feel invisible when I rubbed your feet after work, I said calmly. Or when I made your tea just the way you liked it. Or when I sat through every one of your sister's insufferable dinner parties because you asked. I know, she whispered. I know you were good to me. Were. Past tense. I clocked that. She stepped closer, hands out in some pathetic gesture of peace. I made a mistake. A huge one. But I didn't expect this. I didn't know he'd take the money. Oh. But you knew you were fucking him. My voice rose just enough to cut the air. You knew when you kissed him. When you took off your clothes for him. When you came back to my bed after letting him inside you. Her face crumpled. She tried to reach for me. I stepped back. The silence that followed was colder than anything I'd ever felt. It wasn't rage. It wasn't grief. It was clarity. I need your help, she said finally, voice cracking. He's gone, Tyler. Everything's gone. I don't have anything. Please. I should have thrown her out, told her to pack her designer luggage and walk straight into the mess she'd made. But I didn't. Instead, I looked her dead in the eye and gave her exactly what she needed. I'll help you, I said smoothly. Her whole body sagged with relief. You will. I nodded, even managing a small smile. We'll find him. We'll track down every last dollar he stole. I'll do whatever it takes. Thank you, she breathed, stepping forward again. I swear I'll make this right. I let her wrap her arms around me, let her bury her face in my chest, and cry like she was some tragic victim. But inside, I was already planning something else entirely. She didn't see the storm coming. Not yet, but she would. This wasn't just about Jason. It wasn't about the money or the sex or the betrayal. It was about taking back control. She'd throw me away for a fantasy. Now, I'd make damn sure she lived in the reality of what that cost her, piece by piece. She didn't sleep that night. Emily lay in bed beside me, body trembling beneath the sheets. I heard her soft whimpers, the occasional hitch in her breath when she thought I was asleep. I didn't move, just stared at the ceiling, listening to the sound of guilt breathing next to me. She had no idea I'd already begun the process. The morning after Jason vanished with her money, I made a phone call before even brushing my teeth. Not to a lawyer, not to the police, but to a guy named Max Caldwell, a private investigator I'd met years ago through a business client. Max was ex-military, clean-cut, sharp as a razor, and he had the moral flexibility of a hitman with a notepad. Perfect for what I needed. Tyler, he said when he picked up, I only get calls this early when something's either illegal, personal, or both. It's personal, I replied, voice low, and I want everything. Phone records, bank statements, messages. I need a man named Jason Myers tracked down, and I want every detail of my wife's contact with him. Everything she sent, everything she received. There was a pause. You sure about that? He asked. Sometimes what you find can't be unseen. I clenched my jaw. I'm already living in the wreckage, Max. I might as well know what caused the explosion. He whistled softly. All right, send me what you have. I'll get started today. By noon, Max had already hacked into Emily's cloud backup. I sat in my office, blinds drawn, blindsided by the weight of the evidence Max was dumping in my inbox. Each file was a nail in the coffin of the woman I thought I knew. There were photos. So many fucking photos. Emily in lingerie I'd never seen. Bent over hotel room beds. Naked in mirrors. Smiling like she was proud of what she was doing. And Jason, smirking in every one, his tattoos, that smug expression like he knew exactly what he was stealing from me. There were texts, too. You fuck me like my husband never could. He's so boring. So safe. Your danger, Jason. I crave it. I think I let you come inside me, just to see his face when he finds out. My hand shook as I scrolled through them. Every keystroke chipped away at the last bits of who I'd been before this. But I kept reading. I needed to feel it, to burn. Max sent call logs next. Late-night calls. Lunchtime calls. Voicemails where she laughed at things I would have killed a man for saying to her. Jason's voice oozed over the speaker. "That ass looked so good last night, baby. I'm still thinking about how wet you got when you said his name while I was inside you. Call me when he leaves. I want to taste you again." I sat there frozen, breathing hard, staring at my screen like it had just confessed to a murder. That night, I came home like nothing had happened. Emily greeted me in the kitchen, trying to smile through the wreckage of her pride. She wore sweats and a sweatshirt now. No makeup, no perfume. Like she was trying to rewind time and be the girl who used to bake cookies and hum while folding laundry. "Hey," she said, "I made dinner." "Thanks," I replied, brushing her hand gently as I passed. She looked up like she wanted to cry again, but I gave her no reason. I smiled, sat down, ate the bland chicken she cooked like it was the best thing I'd had in weeks. She talked about going to the police about Jason, about calling the bank again. I nodded along, offered advice, assured her we'd get through it. In her mind, I was still the man she betrayed, somehow too kind to hold it against her. But in mine, I was already steps ahead. That night, while she slept on the couch, too ashamed to be in our bed, I reviewed every document Max had collected, every detail, every timestamp, every betrayal. The beauty of it all was how methodical Emily had been in her deceit. She thought she was being clever, deleting messages, changing names in her contacts, hiding evidence in locked photo folders. But nothing stayed hidden forever. I cataloged everything, printed transcripts, saved backups, created multiple encrypted drives with duplicates of every file. Not because I needed proof for court. No, I was building something bigger. Not just justice. Not just revenge. This would be a reckoning. Revenge is a lonely business until you find out you're not alone. Jason wasn't just a homewrecker. He was a pattern, a predator. Max's reports kept coming over the next few days, each more damning than the last. Bank trails, burner phones, flight bookings, hotel reservations across multiple cities. Jason hadn't just disappeared. He perfected his vanishing act over years. He was a ghost with a heart-on and a talent for draining bank accounts. But the most interesting part wasn't the money. It was the women. For others. For women before Emily. All eerily similar. Late 30s to early 40s. Beautiful. Married. Well-off. Emotionally neglected or just bored. Jason seduced them like it was a job. And in a way it was. He fed on their discontent like a leech. Then vanished once their bank accounts bled dry. I asked Max to set up contact with one of them. Her name was Sasha Whitmore, a dentist from Arizona. Mid-40s, divorced, 2 kids, and a haunted look in her eyes, even over Zoom. She'd met Jason on a wellness retreat 2 years earlier. Same story, same promises, same destruction. "I thought I was special," she said, her voice flat. "He made me feel like I was finally alive again. Until he took everything. My savings, my self-respect. Did you ever try to go after him?" Her smile was bitter. "What's the point?" By the time I realized he was a con artist, he was already in another state. The police called it a civil matter. I called it a fucking nightmare. We talked for an hour. By the time I hung up, I had her trust and an idea. Over the next week, Max and I reached out to every woman we could find who Jason had scammed. Not all were eager to speak, but a few were. And those few had stories that made mine seem tame by comparison. One woman, Janelle, had taken out a second mortgage to invest in a fake real estate venture Jason pitched her. Another, May, admitted he convinced her to send him money to pay off loan sharks he claimed were threatening his life. All of them had been emotionally played. All of them had been intimate with him. Some of them were still ashamed to admit it. But when I told them what he did to my wife, and that Emily still thought he loved her, a shift happened. The shame became anger. That quiet, smoldering rage women carry when they've been lied to and blamed for someone else's cruelty. They wanted justice. I wanted revenge. And so an alliance was formed. Sasha, the dentist, became the point of contact. She was smart, calm, calculated, more than capable of playing her part. I shared what I had. all of Emily's texts, the photos, the financial transfers. The group chat we created started as a support circle, but soon it became something more precise. Tactical. Surgical. We can bait him, Sasha said. He's greedy. If your wife reaches out, tells him she found more money, he'll come back. I smiled. Exactly what I was thinking. But it wasn't just about catching Jason. No, this plan had two targets. Because Emily still had no idea I'd spoken to any of them. She still believed I was in her corner, her faithful husband ready to help her recover what her lover stole. She still kissed me gently before I left for work. Still watched me with eyes full of quiet guilt and the hope that somehow we'd get past this. And I let her believe every word of it. I even started talking to her more sweetly. Little touches on the lower back. A hand brushing her hip in the kitchen. Casual, but suggestive. She didn't pull away. Some nights, I could see it in her eyes, how badly she wanted to bridge the distance between us. Shame and longing battled across her face. Sometimes I wondered if she missed me, or just missed being adored. But I never made the first move. Let her want me. Let her remember how good it used to be. Let her feel safe again. Because what I was planning next would tear her world open in ways Jason never could. This wasn't just about taking Jason down. It was about redefining the pain she thought she knew. There's something morbidly beautiful about watching someone dig their own grave with a smile on their face. Emily sat across from me at the kitchen table, her fingers nervously toying with the rim of her coffee mug. Her eyes were swollen from another sleepless night, her hair still damp from a shower she'd taken hours ago but hadn't bothered to dry. She looked like a woman on the edge, but also like someone desperate to believe salvation was close. "I just don't get it," she said for the third time that morning. "He said he loved me, said we'd be together. Then he just took it all." Her voice cracked at the end, and I forced myself not to react. No sympathy, no anger, just still waters. That's what made her trust me now, my quiet steadiness. "I believe you," I said, voice low and reassuring. "But if you want justice, we need to give him a reason to come out of hiding." She looked up sharply. "You think he'll come back? He's greedy. Men like him don't just disappear. They orbit, wait, circle back when they smell weakness." Her eyes flickered with something that looked like both hope and dread. "So what do we do?" I leaned forward, resting my elbows on the table. "We bait him." Emily hesitated. "With what?" "You," I said simply. She blinked. I let the silence stretch just enough to make her uncomfortable. "Think about it," I continued. "If you message him, tell him you found another stash of cash, maybe from family inheritance or an insurance payout. He might take the bait. He won't be able to resist. You want me to contact him?" "I want you to pretend you still care," I said, making my voice gentle. "Tell him you forgive him, that you're scared, alone, that you need him." The words sat heavy between us. Emily looked away. Her lips parted, but no words came. I could see the war playing out inside her. Shame versus desperation. And desperation always wins when pride is already in tatters. "Okay," she whispered. "I'll do it." I nodded once, standing. "Good. I'll help you write it. We have to be smart about this." She didn't ask why I was suddenly so involved. Why I'd gone from betrayed husband to co-conspirator. She wanted to believe in redemption. Hers, mine, all of it. We spent the next hour drafting a message that felt just desperate enough, just seductive enough. "Jason, I don't know why you left, but I forgive you. I need to see you. Please. I miss you. I have something important to give you. I came into some money from my aunt's estate. I want to share it with you. Please respond." Emily stared at the screen before sending it. Her fingers trembled. I rested a hand on her back like a supportive partner. But my heart was cold, because every word she typed had already been approved by me, and I knew exactly where this was going. 3 hours later, Jason responded. "You really forgive me? Meet me." One last time. He included an address. He still thought she was his, that he had some hold on her, that he could come crawling back and slither into her bed, her bank account, her soul. Emily gasped when the message came through. He responded. She whispered. He wants to meet." I wrapped an arm around her and kissed the top of her head. "Then that's exactly what we'll do." She smiled into my chest, broken and relieved. She had no idea that meeting would be her unmaking, too. The trap took less than 48 hours to build. Max and the other women were already in position. Sasha rented out a private event space in a downtown hotel under the guise of a financial recovery seminar. The victims would be attendees. The confrontation would be public. And Emily? She'd be the star of the show, whether she knew it or not. The beauty of the plan was in its simplicity. Jason would walk in expecting an emotional reunion, maybe even sex and cash. Instead, he'd find his past laid bare, his con exposed, and his most recent conquest shamed in front of an audience that knew exactly what kind of man he was and what kind of woman she had chosen. I watched Emily get dressed the night before the meeting. She chose a soft cream blouse and fitted jeans. She even asked me if she looked okay. "You look perfect," I said. She smiled, her eyes glassy. "You know, I don't deserve this. Your help, your kindness. I destroyed us." I stepped closer, brushing a strand of hair from her face. I let my thumb linger on her cheek. She closed her eyes. "Maybe," I said softly, "but some things still need to be seen through to the end." She nodded slowly, unaware of the double meaning. I kissed her forehead. Tomorrow, everything would change. For both of us. The conference room smelled like fresh linens, overpriced coffee, and dread. It was set up like a business seminar. Rows of chairs, a projector, name tags, even refreshments. Sasha had gone all out, just enough to make it feel real. Max was there too, in plain clothes, keeping a watchful eye. His job wasn't to protect me. It was to make sure Jason didn't try to run when the walls came crashing down. Emily stood near the window, looking more nervous than I'd ever seen her. Her arms were crossed tight across her chest, the cream blouse she'd picked now wrinkled with stress. Her phone buzzed again, and she jumped. "He's on his way," she said, barely above a whisper. I nodded calmly, adjusting my cufflinks. "Good. You know what to say. I just greet him. Act like I'm still on his side." "That's right," I said gently. "Play it like you mean it." She looked up at me, eyes swimming. "Tyler, thank you for being here. I don't know if I could face him alone." He smiled at her. "You're not alone," I said. But I wasn't lying for her anymore. I was lying for the cameras. Because what Emily didn't know, what none of the players knew save for Max and Sasha, was that I'd hired a local news crew. They thought they were here to film a financial fraud sting, something about an online dating scammer being exposed. But they were going to get something better. They were going to catch the moment a con man and the woman who protected him got dragged into the light. Jason arrived 5 minutes late, as if to remind us all that he set the tempo. He was cocky from the moment he walked in. Aviator sunglasses, tight shirt, smug grin. His eyes landed on Emily first, and he smiled like the devil had just found another soul to steal. "Em," he said, opening his arms. "Damn, you look good." She moved toward him instinctively, a reflex she probably didn't even notice. But I did, and so did the cameras. I gave Max a nod. The cameraman whispered into his mic, "Showtime." Jason glanced around, finally noticing the rest of the room. The small audience, the chairs, the unfamiliar faces watching him. "What is this?" he asked, his smile faltering. Emily looked around too, now confused. "Tyler? What's going on?" I stepped forward. "This," I said, my voice projecting across the room, "is a seminar in consequences." Jason's eyes narrowed. "What the fuck is this?" Behind me, Sasha stood up. "Remember me, Jason?" she said coolly. "Sasha Whitmore. Dentist. You took 40 grand from me 2 years ago. Told me you needed it to get out of the gambling debt. Then vanished." Another woman stood. "Janelle Rivas," she said. "You said you loved me too. Convinced me to take out a second mortgage. You left me bankrupt and nearly suicidal." The next voice trembled. "I was married," May whispered. "You told me my husband didn't deserve me, that you wanted a life together. I gave you everything. You gave me nothing." Jason started backing up, but Max blocked the door. Cameras flashed. The news reporter stepped forward with her mic. "Jason Myers, how many women have you defrauded under the guise of romantic relationships? Did you knowingly target married women for financial gain?" I don't know what the fuck this is." "You know exactly what this is," I interrupted. "And so does she." I turned to Emily. She was frozen, mouth open, eyes wide. "You told me you forgave him," I said calmly. But you didn't mention that you helped cover for him. You lied to me. Protected him. Deleted messages. Hid bank statements. You only turned when he burned you. Tyler, her voice cracked. You said you were helping me. I said, stepping closer. I was helping you fall right into the truth. She looked around, realization dawning, too slowly, too late. The women in the room weren't just here for Jason. They were here to watch her drown too. Because it wasn't just about money, it was about trust, betrayal. The way she opened the door for a thief and let him fuck her while I waited in the next room. I didn't know, she stammered. I didn't mean for this to happen. You didn't care if it did, I replied. Until it cost you something. Jason tried to bolt. Max shoved him back toward the cameras. Not so fast, Casanova. The news crew was eating it up. They captured every word, every tear, every name. It wasn't just evidence. It was spectacle. And at the center of it all, Emily stood shaking, humiliated, broken open in front of strangers. For once, she was the one watching her world collapse. And I didn't lift a finger to stop it. The silence after the storm is always louder than the chaos itself. Emily didn't speak to me on the drive home. She sat in the passenger seat, hands clutched in her lap, still wearing the cream blouse from earlier, now wrinkled and damp from tears. Her makeup was streaked, a faint smear of mascara on her temple where she'd rubbed at her face during the confrontation. She didn't even bother to clean it. The woman who once spent an hour getting ready for brunch now looked like she hadn't seen her own reflection in days. Good. She deserved to feel this. When we pulled into the driveway, she didn't move. Just sat there, staring at the front door like it was the gates of some purgatory she'd created herself. Are you coming in? I asked quietly. She swallowed hard. I don't know if I can. I stepped out and left the door open for her. She followed, eventually, walking behind me like a shadow with no form. Once inside, she collapsed onto the edge of the couch, buried her face in her hands, and began to sob. I watched her for a long moment, then finally sat across from her. You made a choice, I said calmly. Now you live with it. You ruined me, she choked out. No, I said, my voice cold. You did that the day you climbed into bed with him and called it love. She looked up, eyes red and raw. You don't understand. I was lost. You thought I'd never find out. I interrupted. You thought you'd keep your little fantasy while I played husband, father, provider. You gambled with my trust and expected a bailout. She dropped her gaze again. No defense. No more lies. Just the silence of someone who finally understood what consequences felt like. But I wasn't finished. Later that night, when she finally fell asleep on the couch, exhausted, tear-stained, and emotionally gutted, I went to work. From a burner email account, I sent an anonymous message to her boss at the real estate agency. Attached were several photos of Emily and Jason. Some clothed, some not. One with Jason's hand firmly on her ass in what was clearly a company office, timestamped during what should have been working hours. In the message, I outlined her unprofessional conduct, her use of company time and resources to carry on the affair, and a vague but ominous mention of possible client data being involved. I hit send and felt nothing but calm. Next, I scheduled another email, this time to her mother, her sister, and two of her closest friends. All of them received a package of texts and screenshots. Explicit messages between her and Jason, time-stamped, labeled, arranged in neat little folders titled Deceit and The Real Emily. I knew exactly what that would do. Her mother, devout, image-obsessed, would spiral into shame. Her sister, who always idolized her, would see her in an entirely new light. And the friends? The ones she bragged to behind my back about Jason, thinking they'd be jealous? They'd be gone. Because nothing clears a room faster than exposed infidelity wrapped in delusion. By morning, the replies had started pouring in. I'm deeply disturbed by this. Please don't contact me for a while. Mom, Jesus Christ, Emily, I defended you to everyone. I feel sick. Monica, her sister. Wow, you really did all that? And to Tyler? You're lucky he didn't burn the house down. Tasha, her former best friend. Emily checked her phone around 9 a.m. I was watching her from across the kitchen, silently sipping my coffee. Her face crumbled with every message. Her hand went to her mouth. She let out a dry, broken noise somewhere between a gasp and a sob. She looked up at me, eyes wide, betrayed. "What did you do?" she whispered. "I told the truth," I replied. "Something you haven't done in a long time." She stood slowly, her hands shaking. "You told everyone? My job? My family?" "Yes." She staggered back a step, as if I'd struck her. "Why would you do that?" I finished my coffee and set the mug down. "Because you don't get to walk away from this with just a broken heart," I said. "You burned our marriage to the ground, and now you're going to stand in the ashes. Alone." She didn't speak, didn't move, just stood there, the world collapsing around her, one exposed secret at a time. I walked past her, brushing her shoulder gently, like a stranger passing someone on the street. "You thought you could humiliate me," I said as I opened the front door. "You never realized what I could do if I stopped protecting you." And with that, I stepped out into the morning air, clear, sharp, and free. She wasn't the only one who'd lost everything, but I was the only one who knew what to do with that loss. By the end of the week, Emily had lost her job. The call came while she was upstairs, hiding in my bedroom. She didn't answer at first. I heard the vibration, the silence, then a soft chime of voicemail. Then it rang again. This time she picked up, and I didn't even have to strain to hear it. Her boss had a voice like a megaphone when he was angry. "We've reviewed everything. We can't have this kind of scandal attached to the firm, Emily. You used company email to coordinate personal travel with a man who defrauded clients. That alone would have been enough, but now we have nude images circulating online from a professional device. This isn't a warning. This is termination." There was a long silence. Then the sound of her voice, soft and shaking. "Please, I have no income. No one else will hire me after this." His response? "That's not my problem." Click. She didn't come downstairs for hours. When she finally did, she was barefoot, pale, and holding the framed photo of our wedding day. Her hands trembled. "This was supposed to be forever," she murmured. "We built something real." I didn't respond, because I had built something real. She just lived in it. Instead, I took another sip of coffee and flipped the page of my newspaper. The next phase was paperwork. While Emily scrambled to call recruiters, friends, anyone who might throw her a rope, I was meeting with a lawyer named Martin Greer, one of the sharpest asset protection attorneys in the state. We'd been preparing for this moment for weeks, quietly, precisely. All my accounts, retirement funds, property shares, and business interests had been legally isolated. Emily's name had been removed from everything but the original mortgage, which, thanks to her recent withdrawal of our joint savings for Jason's fresh start, was now entirely her burden. She drained it for him. Now she would pay for both of them. I even filed a legal separation with financial dissociation, effectively freezing her access to my insurance, benefits, and credit. It was like carving a limb from the body, but only because the limb had turned gangrenous. A few days later, she came home with a grocery bag and found the utilities shut off. No hot water, no electricity. I paid my portion of the bills, just not hers. She stood in the kitchen in a silent panic. Flipping switches like that would change anything. "I paid last week," she muttered. "I don't understand." "I removed auto pay," I said without looking up from my laptop. "You used to cover the rest. I assumed you were still capable." She looked at me with such open fear, I almost felt something. Almost. "Tyler, I don't have anything left. The bank accounts, my cards, everything's closed or frozen. What am I supposed to do?" "You wanted independence," I said, voice calm. "This is what it looks like. But my credit's tanked. I can't even get a loan. I'm overdrawn. My car might be repossessed." I met her eyes then. "That's not my problem." She blinked hard, her lip trembling. "I made a mistake. I got caught up in something stupid. But I'm still your wife." "No," I said, standing slowly. "You are my wife. What you are now is a cautionary tale." She sank into a chair, head in her hands. She didn't cry. There were no tears left in her body. Just silence and exhaustion. Defeat. But I wasn't finished. I handed her an envelope. "What's this?" she whispered. "An itemized statement," I said, "for the damages you caused, financial and otherwise." Inside was a calculated breakdown. Legal fees, credit hits, estimated value of the stolen funds, emotional distress. It was symbolic, mostly. I didn't need the money. I just wanted her to read it, to feel it. "I can't pay this," she murmured, running her finger over the bottom line. I know. That night, she slept on the floor in the spare room, wrapped in a blanket, the power still out. She didn't ask for help. Maybe part of her knew I wouldn't give it. Maybe she'd finally stopped expecting someone else to clean up her mess. The next day, I posted our house for sale. Cash buyers only. Aggressive pricing. She saw the sign go up from the window, and when she came storming outside, she didn't scream or plead. She just looked hollow. "You're selling the house?" she asked, her voice small. "Yes." "Where will I go?" "That's up to you." "You're really doing this," she whispered. I stepped closer, my voice barely above a murmur. "You burned our home the second you opened your legs for another man in the same bed where we used to dream." She flinched. "I'm not punishing you," I added. "I'm simply letting you live with what you chose." She turned and walked back inside, slower this time, as if each step got heavier the more the truth settled on her shoulders. Emily used to walk through life like nothing could touch her. Now she couldn't even keep the lights on. And somehow, that wasn't even the worst of it. That part was still coming. There's something poetic about the way a person breaks when they finally see the full picture and realize they were never in control of any part of it. It happened on a Tuesday. Emily was sitting on the porch, wrapped in a blanket, sipping cheap wine from a chipped mug. Her face looked thinner. Her hair hung limp around her shoulders. The woman who used to command rooms with her smile now couldn't make eye contact with her own reflection. I handed her a manila envelope. She blinked up at me. "What's this?" "Everything," I said, and I meant it. Inside was a timeline. Emails, copies of private investigator reports, transcripts of her texts with Jason, her financial records, phone logs, photos, receipts, and most importantly, recordings, audio clips from the night she confessed she was going to meet Jason. Snippets of her on the phone with him, laughing about me. "He'd never hurt me. He's too much of a good guy. That's why I need someone like you. Baby, a little danger." Clips of Jason mocking me. "Let him be your emotional tampon while I fuck the life back into you." And finally, the one that broke her. A video, taken during our reconciliation weeks ago, while I hugged her in the kitchen, telling her I'd help her get her money back. Her sobbing into my chest. My eyes staring straight into the camera mounted on the shelf behind her. Cold, sharp, unforgiving. She watched that video in stunned silence. Then again, and again. By the third viewing, her hands were trembling so badly she dropped the envelope. You recorded everything?" "Yes." "Even when I was begging you to help?" I nodded. "Especially then." Her lips parted, but no sound came out. Her mouth moved like she was trying to form a word. An apology, a plea, maybe a scream, but nothing came. I crouched down in front of her. "I want you to understand something, Emily," I said softly. "When you chose Jason, you didn't just cheat. You calculated. You lied. You threatened me. You played with my life like it was some backup plan. But I was never your fallback." I stood, walking back to the doorway as she stared at the floor like it might open and swallow her. "I was your reckoning." She didn't respond. Didn't need to, because the real pain hadn't even begun yet. I waited until that night, when she was in the bathtub with the lights off and her phone beside her like a forgotten relic of a better life, to send the final blow. A video compilation. Every moment, every step of her affair and its fallout. Set to music, edited with dates, screenshots, texts, receipts. Her naked in a hotel room. Jason's voice on speaker. Her crying on our couch while I silently recorded every word. And it had one title burned in bold white across the first frame. "This is what betrayal looks like." I sent it from an anonymous address to her extended family, every one of her co-workers, her boss again, every parent in the PDA group she used to lead, her former best friends, Jason's past victims, and a private subreddit dedicated to exposing cheaters, where it received over 10,000 upvotes in under an hour. By midnight, her name was trending in a corner of the internet she could never scrub. Screenshots were shared, discussions opened, and her face, twisted in guilt, pleasure, and regret was everywhere. The woman who once controlled her image down to the perfect filter now couldn't even Google herself without vomiting. I heard her scream around 12:30 a.m., then sobbing. Not the quiet kind, the hollow kind, the kind that shakes out of your lungs like they're being turned inside out. It was beautiful, tragic, cathartic. I didn't go to her. I stayed in the guest room and slept like a man who had finally laid down the last stone of a monument he built from the bones of his own heartbreak. The next morning, she tried to speak. Tyler, I didn't know you could be this cruel. I looked up from my coffee and said, "That's the thing, Emily. I wasn't cruel. I was honest. You just never thought I had it in me because I never needed to before. You ruined me." "No," I said with a small shrug. "You ruined you. I just made sure the world saw it happen." She opened her mouth again, but stopped when she realized there was nothing she could say that wouldn't make it worse. And that's when it hit her. Not just that she'd lost me, but that I'd never really fought her. I just stood still and let her walk off a cliff. And now, she couldn't even remember why she jumped in the first place. The house was empty now. The for sale sign had a red sticker across it that read sold, and the last of the moving boxes had been loaded into the truck just an hour earlier. The walls echoed every step I took, stripped bare of the paintings and photographs that once told the story of a life I thought was shared. I stood in the living room, our living room, and looked at the floor where we used to dance on slow Sunday mornings. She'd hum into my ear, hands wrapped around my neck. No music, just her, just us. But that was before. Now it was just me, and the silence didn't hurt anymore. Emily hadn't spoken to me in days. Not since the video went viral. Not since her inbox overflowed with questions, judgment, ridicule. The real estate firm confirmed she'd been blacklisted by every partner in the region. Friends unfriended. Family distanced themselves. Some even blocked her. Her social currency was gone. Her reputation dead. Her finances ruined. She applied for a job at a local cafe 3 towns over under her maiden name. She told me she was just trying to survive. I didn't answer, because I wasn't trying to survive anymore. I was already living again. The divorce papers were simple, almost clinical. She didn't fight it. How could she? There was nothing left to protect. No leverage. No power. I let her keep the car, the clothes, the remainder of whatever was in her name. But the house, the investments, the savings, those were mine. All legal. All clean. I made sure of it. Not out of spite, but to make a point. You don't get to build a castle on lies and keep the bricks when it falls. She cried when she signed the papers. I didn't. Not even once. 3 weeks after I moved out, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. From her. I almost didn't open it, but curiosity won out. It wasn't an apology, not really. It was more like a confession. A final breath from a woman who had finally realized the world no longer made room for her lies. I thought I had control. I thought I could cheat on you and keep your love. That I could come back and cry, and you'd carry me through it like you always did. But I didn't understand what I'd broken until I watched you walk away from me with nothing but silence. You didn't yell. You didn't hit. You didn't scream. You just made sure I stood in the mess I created until it caved in on me. I keep dreaming about the way you looked at me that last night in the house. You didn't hate me. That would have been easier. You pitied me. And that hurts the most. I don't know who you are anymore, Tyler. But I hope he's someone who's finally free. She signed it with her full name. Not Love Emily. Just Emily Palmer, a name she didn't even deserve anymore. I folded the letter neatly and dropped it into the fireplace. The paper curled into ash, then vanished completely. I moved into a small place on the edge of town. Nothing big, nothing flashy, just enough. There's a coffee shop across the street where the barista knows my name. I started reading again. Actual books, not articles or emails. I joined a gym. I cut off the old routines that used to revolve around checking her location, her tone, her lies. I built new ones from scratch. It wasn't about moving on to someone new. It was about remembering who I was before her. Some days I still feel it, that faint ghost of what we used to be. A scent, a song, the empty space beside me in bed. But it doesn't ache anymore. It just reminds me of how far I've come. Because revenge isn't about rage. It's about clarity. It's the peace that comes after showing someone exactly how far they can fall and walking away before they hit the ground. Emily was destroyed. Jason was exposed. And me? I didn't just survive. I chose freedom. I chose me.